All right. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever you want to call it. My name is Mark Moses. This is the Mark Moses Show podcast, and I appreciate you joining me today. My last show on WLZR was like about a week ago, and you saw my statement there on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Yes, the show came to an end, and I appreciate everyone who listened to it and watched it over the last couple of years. I mean, heck, we started it on the coast in 2013, and yes, it was very sad that it came to an end, but it did. And now we're going to start something new. We're going to start something more magical and more awesome. Yes, it is going to be the Mark Moses Show podcast, which you are going to see Monday through Friday, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be on Facebook Live. We're going to be on Twitter. We are going to be on YouTube. We're going to be everywhere. You could still check out the audio podcast version of the show through Podbean. This is very key. So I am going to get through today's show, episode 1 of the Mark Moses Show podcast, and then we're going to start really building on this and get it to the next level. We're under construction right now. We're at my offices there in West Melbourne. We got our corporate engineers working on the different studios, and I'm going to have a new office. We're going to be working on all of that stuff behind the scenes. So for right now, I'm going to be broadcasting from home, from one of my offices. It's going to be a little wild the first couple of weeks, but we're going to get it going in the right direction, I promise. And we're going to add it. We're going to make it even cooler than it was before. So that's my official statement. Welcome to a Monday. Welcome to St. Patrick's Day. We're going to have some fun. I got some great guests coming up today. I do. As you are going to hear from head basketball coach, legend. Yes, Mr. Billy Mims is going to be joining us. You're going to hear my conversation with him. We're going to be doing that here in about 10 minutes because I made that announcement Friday around 2 p.m. or so about what's going to happen to the show. And then about an hour later, Coach Mims, who's a great friend of mine, he did his official statement saying, I'm stepping down as the head basketball coach there at Florida Tech here in Melbourne. So you're going to hear from Coach Mims, why he made the decision, what he might do moving forward. Yeah, we're going to do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And also, I know John Reynolds there at Florida Tech also stepped down. He's a legend when it comes to women's basketball. So I hope to get Coach Reynolds on as well moving forward. I do. And you're going to hear from my great friend, Chris Graham with the Augusta Free Press. Does an amazing job covering college basketball for the ACC. I've known him for 15 years. We're going to get his thoughts on the bracket. That's right. Tournament starts tomorrow for March Madness. Now, before I get into my hot takes of the day, I have scripts I need to read off. I want to thank the fine people with Anidjar and Lavine, accident attorneys, for coming on board with me. They were our studio sponsor on the radio station. So they're going to be, and I appreciate them again for moving over to being the studio sponsor of the Mark Moses Show podcast. Now, I know we don't have an actual studio, but you can see their logo on the top corner there. They are great. I'm going to read off their phone number. Yes, you need help, call them today. 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Anidjar and Lavine, accident attorneys, our official sponsor of the studio of the Mark Moses Show. All right, let's get into a couple things here. Let's get into this. The NCAA tournament does start tomorrow. What you do is, in case you just landed on this planet, they put it to 68 teams. We are going to have the first 4 type games coming up tomorrow night there in Dayton, Ohio. And you're like, well, I don't really care. Remember, we have had opportunities in the last 10 years to see a team play in Dayton, Ohio, then go on a run. Most recently, I believe it was UCLA who made it all the way from Dayton, Ohio to the Final Four. We had, 2011, you had VCU, the Rams, Shaka Smart, that team, first 4 to the Final Four. So you can be like, whatever. No, there are teams that have done it. It is possible. Just like in the NBA, the Miami Heat, they were in the play-in tournament. They made it all the way to the NBA Finals. It is possible. It's a gauntlet, but you can do it. But when I looked at this bracket with all these teams, my first thought was, where are the Florida Gators? Where are they playing? I get it. You have the 4 where it's Duke's number 1 overall. You had Auburn, the regular season SEC champions. Houston's been phenomenal for the last couple of years. They're in the Big 12. But I go, where are the Gators? Where are the Gators? The Gators, let's go over these stats real quick before we go over their matchup. And they're going to play Friday night. It's around, 6:50 or so on TNT, in case you're wondering. You look at these stats. I wrote them down. The Gators are a number 1 seed for the first time since 2014. That's the last time they also won the SEC tournament there in Nashville. Remember, they beat Tennessee. That was yesterday. It feels like it was 17 hours ago. It probably was. First time since 2014, they won an SEC tournament, and the first time they're a 1 seed since 2014. Remember, that team was led by Patrick Young, Shioza. That was a great team. Billy Donovan was still the coach. They only lost, 2-3 games that whole season. They lost to Kentucky in the Final Four semifinal matchup. That is an amazing team in 2014. This is a great team also this year. And give flowers to Todd Golden and his coaching staff. The job they've done. Again, 30-4, and they're now a number 1 seed. And they have beaten everyone. You look at that SEC tournament, every win was by double digits. And you look overall, the SEC, 14 teams from the conference, a record, have made the tournament. Gators beat them all. All beat Auburn, beat Bama, beat Missouri, beat Tennessee. They are a juggernaut of a basketball team. They play offense. They play defense. They're smart. They have depth. I love the Gators basketball team this year. I told you a couple weeks ago, I went up to the O-Dome. I saw them play Oklahoma. They're a great basketball team. But here's the kicker. Now it doesn't matter. I mean, this morning I saw ESPN do this article where, Gators are ranked 3rd in the country and Duke's number 1. Who cares? The Associated Press still released a top 25 poll. It doesn't matter anymore. Now you're in the big boy tournament. Now it's the gauntlet. Now you got to win 6 games in a row. And honestly, what the regular season does is gives you seeding for the tournament. That's all it does. You're going to put a banner up, we won the SEC tournament. Okay, whatever. That's great and all. But now the real tournament starts. You've got to win 6 games in a row. I think the Gators are built to do it. I think the first 2 games are going to be very easy. I know, knock on wood, but I think they can do it. You got Norfolk State in the opener, 1-16. I think the Gators should handle business. And yeah, that game is 6:50 Friday night on TNT. Be there or be square. That's what's going to be happening coming up on Friday night. Then in the second matchup, if it was going to be, round of 32, you'll take on the winner of UConn. And this is not UConn that's won the last 2 national titles. UConn's an 8th seed, and they're going to be taking on Oklahoma, a team I saw the Gators destroy. That's right, in round 2. Gators should win against Norfolk State, and then they should beat the winner of that round of 32 game, and they should be going on to the Sweet 16. This team is built to make a Final Four run. Now they got to go do it. The only question would be, and I know, look, you got a lot of transfer guys, you got a lot of veterans on this team, but this core has never made a run in the tournament. They haven't. They've never gone deep in the tournament. We're going to find out moving forward if they can do it. So again, Gators play Friday night. We're going to be watching the game. We'll break it down right here on the Mark Moses Show. The other one yesterday was, which came out of nowhere. I was such in shock that the Orlando Magic were on national TV. I thought we were banned after how they lost to Cleveland a couple weeks ago on TNT. And I was at that game at the Kia Center when they lost by 40 points. That was ugly. I didn't think they were going to be asked back on national TV. But while all these conference championship games were going on, ABC Local had Orlando at Cleveland on. 1 o'clock with the tip. No, seriously. Had them on. And it was a wild game. And I remember I was texting my buddy Tim where I'm like, hey, the Magic are in this basketball game. What's going on here exactly? What is this? I thought they were going to get killed. I had no faith. But you know what? The Orlando Magic, and you got to give them credit, they stuck around. They stuck around. They stuck around. They kept battling. They kept making basket, point, defensive play. They kept getting at it. And you look at that 5-game road trip. They went 3-2, and they got the big win yesterday, 108-103 there at Cleveland to snap Cleveland. What was it, 16-game winning streak? That was a big, big win for the Orlando Magic. And honestly, Paolo and Franz did not shoot well. They did not yesterday. They did not shoot well, and they got it done. That was a big win for the Magic. So if you go over the stats now, all right, Magic are still below 500, but it appears like the whole Eastern Conference outside of Cleveland and Boston are. Magic are 32-37. They are the 8th seed, half game out of Atlanta for the 7th seed, 5 games out of Detroit for the 6th seed. And then, 5.5 out of the 5th seed. There's still a chance. There's 13 games to go in the regular season. You still can make a push. Best case scenario, get that 6th seed, get out of the play-in tournament. But I like what Paolo, there's video of him leaving the court, and he was hyped. He was angry, and he's like, I'll take on Cleveland again. He wants revenge after what happened last spring in the playoffs when they lost that Game 7 loss, round 1 at Cleveland. I love it. It was awesome. It really was. So it was a good day for basketball. Yeah, and basketball's really going to ramp up. I'm just excited, honestly. I'm excited that we got through the Super Bowl to now, the worst time of year, and now it's ramped up. When you look at this, and I say this every year. All right, you have March Madness, a couple weekends in a row of NCAA basketball. Then you'll have NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs. We get opening day of baseball. Then we get, who's makes me happy, the NFL draft. We're going to break it all down. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give one more shout out here to Anidjar and Lavine, accident attorneys. Give them a call today, 1-800-747-3733. And thank you guys for coming on as my studio sponsor. I appreciate that. I do. We don't have commercials. I'm so used to the radio where, all right, let's go to a quick commercial break. We'll come back 5 minutes. We'll talk to such and such. We don't need to do that. This is a whole new world for me on the podcast. Here's what we're going to play right now. Hopefully it works okay. I'm still trying to figure out the bugs of this. Here's my conversation from this morning. It was awesome with Billy Mims, head basketball coach, Florida Tech for the last 20 years. He stepped down. We're going to talk about his career, some of his highlights, and where does he want to go next? What's the next? And his thoughts on March Madness. Let's play that now here with Billy Mims. Dairy basketball coach Billy Mims. I know he's there with family right now in South Carolina. I had to get him on. Coach, how you doing today?
Hey, look, come on. Last night was Selection Sunday. March Madness is full swing this week. We've got the play-in games, the, quote, first 4 taking place in Dayton, Ohio, right? This week. And then come Thursday is the best day on the calendar year. Thursday, wall-to-wall basketball, multiple networks. For a basketball coach, a lifer like myself, this is the best week of the year.
Well, before we get into your picks, and I think we've been doing this for like 10 years or so, I know you posted a statement yesterday about your status as a basketball coach. So I know you can't get into massive details, but I wanted to bring you on today. You're one of my favorite friends and guests I've ever had in my industry. I always love getting you on. You got great insight. So I wanted you to have the floor. Take it away, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it, Mark, and thank you very much. I always enjoy our time together on air. I enjoy our friendship. I have utmost respect for you. You do a tremendous job as a sports broadcaster, and I know you're getting ready to go through a bunch of changes yourself.
Yes.
But the entire industry is going through changes. And as you look at it lately, I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, the over and under this year for college basketball coaching changes in Division One was going to be like 65. So it's that time of the year. They call it the coaching carousel, so to speak. So it's commonplace. And the situation with myself is that I've been at Florida Tech for 20 years, and 20 years is almost unheard of anymore. So in many senses, you know, it's time to look to something else. It's time to move on. I have a lot of irons in the fire right now, a lot of potential opportunities in front of me, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the next chapter in this lifelong coaching saga. As you know, I've been coaching 43 years overall. I just finished my 20th season at Florida Tech. I've done 26 years in the Sunshine State Conference, two teams, Florida Tech and Barry. And it really is time to move on and explore some of these other opportunities that, because I've so locked into Florida Tech for so long, I haven't had the chance to really explore. It's been 21 years since I've even really thought about looking for another job or looking into other opportunities. And it's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. I'm going out as the all-time winningest coach in Florida Tech men's basketball history. 273 wins at Florida Tech. And, if somebody wins 25 games a year, which is pretty hard to do, they take a decade to catch me. And I don't even know if there are any coaches out there anymore, Mark, that'll stay a decade at one school. So think the environment, the industry, the business, it's all changing. NIL as and the transfer portal have caused a lot of great coaches, especially one up in your old neck of the woods at UVA this year, stepped down during the season because he didn't like where things were going. And I think sometimes, too, it's not necessarily liking or disliking where things are going. I think all of us at a certain point in time need a new challenge, need a new chapter to write. And I think once you get that across that, wow, these people are pursuing me for these opportunities, it's different. And if you can get out of your comfort zone and explore those changes, then it gives you those new challenges that really make doing your job so exciting. To go somewhere new, to work with new people, to build a new basketball team, to help create a new success story. So, I've had a great run at Florida Tech. We're in 2012, we won the SSC championship for the first time in Florida Tech men's basketball history as an outright championship. And I tell you, I couldn't be more proud. I remember that season like it was yesterday. I had a great lineup. And again, here's something that's, my wife and I were talking about this the other day, and she said, wow, that was a great team when you won the conference and went to the NCAA tournament and got to the second round, won 23 games, went 23-7 that year. Tremendous year for us and for our program. She said, but the way you did it was old school, and it may never happen like that again. That team, Mark, in 2012, we had 4 starters on that team that came to Florida Tech as freshmen, and now they were juniors and seniors to win the league. They had stayed there 4 years throughout their career, whether they were injured or redshirted, medical redshirt, whatever. When we won the title, we had 4 players in the starting lineup that had been with us since their freshman year, and 1 transfer, just 1 transfer. And the 1 transfer was a local young man, Anthony Jackson, who had played at Melbourne High School, played at Eastern Florida State, and then transferred to us to help us win the Sunshine State Conference. We had Simon Cummings from Fort Pierce, Florida on that team. We had Julius Reed from Cocoa High School another local product that came to us right out of high school. We had Edgar Zaglitas from Riga, Latvia. We had Derek Hellman, who was from Ohio, Lebanon, Ohio, and Anthony Jackson were our starting five. And I remember it so well because we look back, Mark, we started that season at Mississippi State, an SEC matchup. And we're on the road playing an SEC team to open the season at Mississippi State. We didn't win the game, but when the game was over, I'll vividly remember it forever. They had a player named D. Bost, a point guard that was, at the time was a finalist for the Wooden Award, right? And D. Bost was supposed to be the best point guard in America. Well, that night, D. Bost had, I believe, 5 points, 3 assists, 2 steals for the game, right? Julius Reed from Cocoa, Florida, in that same game that night, had 23 points, 8 assists, 5 steals. When the game was over and I went to shake hands with the head basketball coach of Mississippi State at the time, he shook my hand. He said, "Billy, what a great game tonight." He said, "You did everything we wanted. You tested us." He said, "But I want to tell you one thing. I thought I had the best point guard in America. Tonight, I saw a better one."
Great story.
That better one was from Cocoa, Florida, playing for Florida Tech, Julius Reed.
Okay, we're here with Billy Mims. He's talking about his career at Florida Tech, 20 years. And I want to state this. He's in my Hall of Fame. He's in the Space Coast Sports Hall of Fame. This guy is a legend. Here's the story I want you to know. So the first time I ever met you, I remember Ryan, who used to be the like athletic communications. I think he's in Indianapolis now.
Ryan Jones. He works for the NCAA.
Yeah, Ryan's a great guy. So he's like, "You should get Coach on." And I'm like, "Okay." So I remember the first time, I've told you this story over the years. First time I said, "All right, I better do my prep." So I wrote out all these questions for you. And the first 2 minutes you started talking, I ripped it up, said, "I don't need to ask anything. Coaches, you're so media savvy. I don't need to do anything." The other thing I've never told you before, never. So you show up, you got the best haircut here in the state of Florida, as always. And you just got that smoothness, and you got that swag. I was like, "Oh, this guy's like a New Yorker, like Patino or Calipari." Because you just you got that aura about you. And then I swear a couple months in, you're like, "Yeah, I'm from South Carolina." What? What? So it always makes me laugh. But the kudos I will give you, the flowers, if you put it that way, is you're not just a basketball coach. You give back. You go to these clinics around the world and teach the game of basketball and just life lessons. And I know you're going to go to the Final Four in San Antonio in a couple weeks, and you really network. And I always love you talk about, you're always on these like committees, and you're going over the game where should we change defense? How should we do this? And I love, and again, and I'm so jealous, by the way, where you'll go to like Greece and Ireland, all paid, but you're working there and you're building these connections. And I think that's very key. And I like what you brought up. And I know you love this. You're like, "Mark, I'll sit back. I'll hear this all day." I know you love it. So what I think about with myself and I think about you is, a brand, like a brand. Hey, we're a team. Like behind me, you see the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic, that's a brand. Florida Tech's a brand. But a brand's only good about the people that are there. The people make a brand. Billy Mims, he helps the game of basketball. There is no basketball without guys like Billy Mims. I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say here with you.
Thank you, Mark. That's a huge, huge compliment. I'm not even sure I deserve it all, but
you do.
Thank you very much. The game has been, this is funny. I mean, as I said, I'm a lifer.
Yeah.
I've been playing the game, coaching the game, since I could walk. The game has been a part of my life. I grew up, as you know, we talked about it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in Moncks Corner, South Carolina right now, visiting my parents. And I grew up on Tobacco Road. When I grew up, the ACC was the mecca of college basketball. I grew up watching Dean Smith coach the North Carolina Tar Heels. I grew up when a New Yorker by the name of Frank McGuire came from New York to South Carolina to coach the South Carolina Gamecocks and really brought big time basketball to the state of South Carolina. Talk about a legend. I was fortunate to attend his basketball camp when I was young and meet Coach McGuire. And he was sort of, my mentor, a hero to me. And that's how I became a South Carolina Gamecock fan, watching Frank McGuire and Gamecock basketball. But the game, really, to me, the game has been my passport, to travel the world. I met my wife in London, England. All three of my children were born in England, are dual citizens. But how did that all come about? This little guy from Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Basketball was my ticket to see the world because I got offered a job. I was coaching in Miami. I was at Barry University, head coach and a young head coach in the Sunshine State Conference. And I got a phone call one day about a player named Anthel Hicks, who was a USA Today first team All-American at Barry. And I got a call from London, England, a guy named Barry Dow, wanting me to tell him all about this great player because they were putting together a new professional basketball team in London. And as any good coach would do, I sold my player to him. I was on the phone, and I'm sure you can imagine this.
Yes.
A couple of hours telling him how great Anthel Hicks was. The next day, he called me back and he said, man, I really liked how you sold that player. But we have an opportunity to take a veteran who's just become available. We're going to take the veteran instead of going with the rookie, your kid. But I want to tell you, I love how you sold him. Is there any chance you'd like to fly over here and interview for our head coaching job? That is how weird it happened, Mark.
Yeah.
So I did. I flew across the pond that weekend. I interviewed for the job on Friday and Saturday. And on Sunday at Planet Hollywood in Piccadilly Circus, they offered me the job. And I moved to England and I coached professional basketball for 12 years. And during that time in the BBL, the British Basketball League, coaching against people like Chris Finch, who's the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves now, Nick Nurse, who's the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, and we were all in the BBL at the same time. Bob Donowall, who's the top assistant coach at Ole Miss right now with Chris Beard, they're dancing this week. Bob was also in the BBL at the time. So it was a great league, a great opportunity. And look, it was a change I was hungry for. I took the opportunity, spent 12 years there, won 7 national championships in 12 years, and got an opportunity to tour all around Europe and become known sort of, as more than just a guy from Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Now I was Billy Mims, a coach who had won national championships in European basketball in the big city of London. And because of that, I got an opportunity to go do a lot of coaching clinics and camps. And as you said, I mean, I've traveled the globe now because of the great game of basketball. So I have a family because of basketball that I met because of traveling, because of basketball. I have friendships around the world, experiences. I've been a lucky, lucky individual because of one great game.
You're absolutely right. We're here with Billy Mims, and I appreciate coming on. I know you're running around like a maniac, so I appreciate it. I wish I was with you, like we could time travel when you told your parents, I'm going to London for an interview. I wish I could have been there for that conversation. Like, what? And then the other one, I wish we could see you on that airplane when you were flying there for the interview. Like, what's going on in your mind? Because we've all been there where you're interviewing for a job. Like, am I going to really move to this place? Like, I know you're probably driving around like, what's going on? And then you came back to America, or as they call it, the States. Like, man, and this is my advice for you. You're not done. You're not done, buddy. You're too young. You're a young whippersnapper. Look, think about this. The former president, Joe Biden, was 80. Okay. The current president is 78. I don't even know how old Rick Pitino is, but he keeps going. You got another 20 years in you, buddy. So I hope you're ready for this.
Hey, I think Rick Pitino, I believe, is 72 right now.
Yes.
And you know what? He's going to be dancing this week. And what a great story. I mean, look at Rick. He went to Greece, coached at Panathinaikos in Athens for a couple of years. And again, basketball was invented by a Canadian named James Naismith, but invented in the USA. It was shipped around the world via the U.S. military and bases around the world playing basketball. It is an American invention, an American game at the core heart of it, right?
Yeah.
But not anymore, Mark, and you know this. It's a world game. Look, the last four NBA MVPs have been international players, not American born American citizens. And there's a good chance that Nikola Jokic will win another MVP this year. And therefore, and if he doesn't, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win. So again, neither one who will win the NBA MVP this year is an American.
Yeah, good point. I didn't even think about that. He's Canadian.
He's a Canadian. So I'm sure James Naismith right now is rolling over in his grave thinking, yes, look, I was a Canadian who invented the game in America. And once again, we might have a great Canadian player.
He could be the second ever behind Steve Nash.
Oh, I was going to say the trivia question out there. Who was first? One of the greatest point guards in NBA history, Steve Nash.
Did I ever tell you the story? I bumped into him at the Magic game when he was the coach of the Nets.
Wow.
He must have lost some weight. And I'm not saying he's sick. I'm just saying maybe he just changed the way his body was after he played. And he's not that tall. And you're like, what? He's not tall at all. The fact that it's kind of like when you meet DJ Augustine, who played at Texas, played the NBA for a decade. You're like, what? How did you play in the NBA? Okay, here's what I want you to know. I have never won a bracket challenge. Okay. I'm one of these things where it's just like, I'm at the point, I'm just going to enjoy the tournament. I've given up trying to win, and I cover basketball. How about you? I know you love the tournament. How do you approach it now in this new world we talk about?
Well, I just talked a minute ago about my wife and kids and my family. And when we moved back to the States from England and we came back to the NCAA from coaching professional basketball in Europe, that's when we really got into March Madness. And I had been to it many, many times. Mark, going to San Antonio in April this year for the Final Four, I believe that's going to be like my 30th Final Four that I've been to. So, as you mentioned, I serve on a couple of committees. I have been 2 terms on the NCAA Regional Advisory Committee. We call it the RAC, and that's where coaches sit to help with the ratings of the teams to make the NCAA tournament. So you have regional committees that every week, rate the region, and then that helps the national committee decide the best teams to invite to the dance. So I had 2 terms on the regional RAC, the NCAA RAC, and now for the past probably 8 years or so, I've been the Sunshine State Conference representative on the NABC, which is the National Association of Basketball Coaches, the NABC Congress. And that's where we sit around a group of about a dozen of us, and we represent conferences all across the country at the Final Four. And we talk about the future of the game. We try to think about what would be good changes to make, what would be things we don't want to change. So I'm looking forward to going. So it's been a business thing for me because it's what I do, right? You go to meetings there. You network with other coaches there. You schedule games. Here's what I bet you didn't know.
What?
When I was a young assistant coach at Winthrop University, okay, NCAA Division I, Winthrop University in the Big South Conference, I was a finalist for the University of North Carolina Asheville job, UNC Asheville. And the Final Four that year was held in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I was at the Final Four, and I got this phone call. And this famous show on ESPN called Outside the Lines. I'm sure you've heard of it, correct?
Yes, I have.
Well, now you're talking to somebody that's been on Outside the Line.
Where's the video? I need the video of this. Where is it?
Here's what happened, Mark. I was a finalist for the Asheville job, and the athletic director from UNC Asheville said, Billy, we've been asked to do our interview because they want to show outside the lines what goes on at the Final Four behind the scenes. That many coaches come to the Final Four and they get job interviews and they're networking. They're trying to get the next job. So they asked me, would I mind if my interview was televised and part of Outside the Lines? So I agreed. You know me, I'm media friendly as it is.
Right. Yes.
So I said, you want me to be on Outside the Lines on ESPN? How can this be a bad thing? Either I'm going to get your job, but even if I don't get your job, hundreds of other athletic directors are going to see me on ESPN. I'm all in.
How'd it go?
I thought the interview was great. I really did. Ended up being runner-up for the job. They went with it because I was very young. In fairness, they went for a more mature, a more experienced head coach. But they said as far as the young candidates for the job, I was the best. And I said, you know what? I said, I loved every minute of it. We had all the cameras and the spotlights on. And I said, here I am. You call this the hot seat. I'm sitting in the hot seat. I said, I love it. Let the cameras roll and let's do it.
Okay, instead of getting our picks that are going to be completely wrong, I'll end with this with Billy Mims. I think that's what we'll do here. What I love is you have a whole new audience that knows about you in Fayetteville, Arkansas. The state of Arkansas now knows of your legacy. Like, you're known all over Europe, all over the Southeast, but now Arkansas. So your daughter, she does a great job, Courtney. She's covering all the Razorback athletics. You're right. She's Miss Pig Suey, as I call her behind her back. Don't tell her that. So you guys were on there. I watch every episode of you and your daughter talking basketball. And when I look at the comments, oh, I love Coach. Coach is great. When are you going to get Coach back on? What's happening? You're getting even more famous. I hope you know that. It's fantastic. I love it, Coach.
Well, hey, right there, I'm just I'm sort of basking in the glow of my daughter there. Okay, as you said, she's doing a great job. Courtney's part of at the moment. She's the acting sports director for Pig Trail Nation. Okay, PN as they call it, which is the largest sports team in the state of Arkansas, and they cover all things Arkansas Razorbacks. She did an interview one-on-one last week with Talon Green, which is their quarterback for Arkansas Razorback football. And it was fantastic. It was as good as anything you see on the national networks. And I know I'm biased as a father.
Yeah, you should be.
She did a fantastic job. And Talon told him afterwards, the SID at Arkansas, he goes, wow, that was the most comfortable one-on-one interview I've ever done. So she act for it. But she came up with this idea called full court press because of the basketball terminology, but her name is Courtney. And we used to always call her sometimes short Court, hey, Court, what about this, And so it became her show during this season when they got John Calipari to join the Razorbacks. And it became full court press, sort of a weekly digital podcast, online television show as well, on TV, on digital, on podcast. And we've had a lot of fun with it because we break down the recent games that the Arkansas Razorbacks have played and their chances. And here's what's really good, Mark.
What?
I love it when my expertise and my knowledge, my lifelong knowledge of the game, makes me pretty good at my predictions. It was just a few weeks ago, I got on the show with her and I said, they're going to win their last 5. People said, oh, can they still make the tournament? Can they still make the tournament? I said, here's what's going to happen. They're going to go 5-0 down the stretch. they're going to finish the season 19-11. Sorry, Thomas, it was 20-11. I said they're going to go 20-11. They're going to finish 5-0 down the stretch. And I broke down the reason why they were going to win each game, right? And I said, that's it. Joe Lunardi will have them in. The selection committee will have them in. They're in, right? Well, they won the first game of those 5. I looked pretty good. They won the second game of those 5. I looked a little better. Then the only one of the 5 they couldn't win, they got blown out here in the great state of South Carolina by the worst team in the SEC, the absolute rock bottom South Carolina Gamecocks. So I was like, oh no, my predictions after that show. And I said, don't worry. 5-0 was a definite. 4-1 down the stretch. We'll still get them there. 4-1, and they win in the SEC tournament. They'll get their 20-plus wins. They're in the NCAA tournament. Lo and behold, I was right. They're in.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Here's the kicker. You didn't like me saying your picks are wrong. So you're like, yeah, watch this. Here's what it was. The other thing is what?
How about look at the marquee matchup we're talking about, right? Is that look at this. Arkansas is in, right? And who are they playing in their first game? Kansas. It's Kansas versus Arkansas, if you like.
I like that.
And Kansas versus Arkansas. And look at the coaching matchup there. Hall of Fame matchup in round 1. And you're looking at John Calipari in his first year away from the Kentucky Wildcats, his first year with the Arkansas Razorbacks, going up against a legendary Kansas coach, Bill Self. I mean, you can't ask for a better matchup than that of 2 teams out sort of in the Midwest, the rural central part of America. That is just 2 legendary fan bases, right? The Kansas Jayhawk fans, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, and Woo Pig Suey. I don't know any other college basketball teams or college football teams that have better sayings than Rock Chalk Jayhawk or Woo Pig Suey, right?
I will be completely honest with you. I'll be a homer when I say this. I only care about the Gators in this tournament. Okay. That's all I care about. I go, look, this is it. This is it for the, you know, it's funny. I know we're running out of time here, and I appreciate coming on, Coach. It's like, oh, they're number 1 seed. They won 30 games. SEC tournament champions. First time since 2014. 1 seed. First time since 20. Okay. That's great. Welcome to the gauntlet. Here we go. Is that how you, we'll end with this. Is that how you look at it? Yeah, whatever you did in the regular season, that's cute. Now it gets real. Is that how you look at it?
Well, here's the thing, and I hate to say this for Florida Gator fans, and I could be wrong on this, but legend, history, when you look at the NCAA tournament, and let's first say, what a banner year for the SEC. I grew up on Tobacco Road, right? I'm used to seeing the ACC be the dominant, and come on, North Carolina State, Virginia. You look at the national champions galore that have come out of the ACC. Look at the players, the Michael Jordans that have come, David Thompson, that have come out of the ACC in March Madness, right? The ACC was the juggernaut of college basketball. Not so much anymore. The SEC proved. Now, they've always been a great football conference, right? Now they're the number 1 basketball conference. 14 teams. Am I right there, Mark?
14 record. 14.
But they only have 16 in the conference.
I know. So if you didn't make it, you're really bad. Like really, really bad.
They were taking teams from the SEC this year with losing conference records over teams from the ACC with winning conference records.
It just means more.
You got to know. I mean, Florida State and Clemson have been complaining about the parity for a while as ACC football members, thinking that they're just as good as the SEC, right? They've been complaining about that. Well, now look, the basketball teams in the ACC got to be going, where's our respect? So not only do you have 14 SEC teams in the tournament, 2 of the 4 number 1 seeds are SEC teams, Auburn and Florida, right? Here's the bad news for the Gators.
Okay.
And good news for the Auburn Tigers. Okay. History and tradition says that, man, when it's a lot of good teams out there, no one team, there is no undefeated team, right? It's hard to win the NCAA tournament 6 games in a row. You talked about the gauntlet now, right? You've got to win 6 games all on neutral floors. You never play another game this year on your home court. You're traveling, you're playing for the first time on a neutral court, and you're playing an opponent that knows today is do or die, win or go home. The pressure is greater, the atmosphere is greater. It's hard to win. Now, here's the thing. One team is going to win 6 games in a row. 7 if you have to play in the first 4, right? That's why no team has ever won that played in the first 4. 7 games, almost impossible. 6, difficult, but you got to do it. One team out of this field of 68 teams will win 6 straight games, okay? Maybe 7 if you come from the first 4. But every coach out there would say, I'd rather lose in my conference tournament than, because if you win so how many games did Florida just win in the SEC tournament?
What was it, 3 or 4? I mean, yeah.
So now look, they've just won a gauntlet in the best league in the country. Now they got to go from that to playing in the biggest environment, March Madness, and they got to continue to win. That's the problem. If you lost before you get into March Madness, you have a better chance to win 6 straight. Otherwise, your winning streak goes on and on and on. And it's like, you're the big Gator guy. When was the last game Florida lost and who was it against? I don't know. But I'm telling you, now that winning streak becomes that much more difficult for the Gators because they march through the SEC. Other teams, look at Arkansas, for instance. They lost out. They're still in the NCAA tournament. By losing in their conference tournament, they got a little more time to get some injured players healthy. And believe it or not, you might want to pick Arkansas as an upset pick early on, because I know from a good source that because they're now in the postseason, the best freshman point guard in the NCAA, Boogie Flan, who went out earlier in the season from Arkansas with a broken bone in his hand and had to have surgery. Boogie Flan is just about to be cleared to return to play. He is a freshman sensation. Arkansas is a lot better with Boogie Flan in the lineup. Thero Adu, also another guy that could be back.
See, you've done all these Arkansas podcasts. Now you know the whole team. You've had to do your research. All right. Here's what we'll do. I know you're busy. I appreciate coming on. You're one of my great friends. I always love you, man. And I know you're going to do great things moving forward. We'll get you back on, and I'd love to get you on from San Antonio in the Final Four, okay? So, Coach, thank you so much again, and good luck moving forward, all right?
Mark, thank you so much, and good luck with the future of the Mark Moses Show.
Great stuff. Always love talking to Billy Mims. I've known him for 12 years now. He's one of my favorites. Mount Rushmore guests I've had in my career, and especially stepping down as the head basketball coach there at Florida Tech, and he was there for 20 years, even though he said in the conversation that he's been in coaching for 43 years. The guy's a legend. He's going to do something great moving forward. Congratulations on 20 years at Florida Tech, and good luck on the future, Coach Mims. Again, this is our first episode of the Mark Moses Show podcast. We are at home studio. They're working in my offices on building a new studio set. We're going to have so much fun moving forward. I want to thank, this is very key, and we'll go to our next guest. I want to thank Anidjar and Lavine accident attorneys. Give them a call. 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Anidjar and Lavine, Accident Attorneys, our official studio sponsor. Now, I did this last night, right when the brackets came out. This guy I've known for 15 years. He's one of my good friends, Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. We're going to talk some March Madness with the tournament starting tomorrow with the first four. Enjoy here on the Mark Moses Show podcast. And Sunday night, we just got the brackets released. Yes, my name's Mark. This is our first show of the all-digital streaming Mark Moses Show. And I had to bring on this gentleman who does an amazing job there in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I've known him a long time. He is Chris Graham with the Augusta Free Press. And I just want to say this. He actually covers college basketball, not like everyone else, including myself. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
I am honored to be the first guest on the new digital era of the Mark Moses Show.
I first met you in 2010. We were at the football stadium there at UVA in Charlottesville, Scott Stadium. I think that's what it's still called. Yeah, that is correct.
They haven't sold the naming rights yet, but that's pending, right?
You're absolutely right. So I've known you, man, 15 or so years. That is crazy. How did that happen?
They sat us on the end of the press box together because we were either the least important or most dangerous or both of guys who were there.
I remember the moment I first started talking to you. The conversation was probably football and wrestling. That's probably what we talked about.
Maybe not in that order either.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I always appreciate your help. I'm excited with all this, and we got to talk some March Madness. And I want to start with this. I am starting this digital thing. You've been doing digital stuff, you were telling me off air, since 2002.
Yeah.
What is your advice for me, my friend, as I'm going all digital now?
Welcome to the resistance, I guess would be the first thing to say. No, now this is mainstream now, right? I mean, when I was doing this back in 2002, I had to explain to people for years. Yeah, no, there's no print paper, or the case, there's no radio show. I'm a website. I started doing podcasts before YouTube. I can't remember the first podcast service we used. That it's that far back, but no, this is the way to go now. So I'm excited for you because you're going to have a chance now to really get out there in the world, and the world deserves to hear more from you, Mark, and because your show is so good, more people need to hear it.
I appreciate that. And yeah, Chris has been coming on with me for years, and I know he wants to give all his wrestling opinions, but we will start with March Madness. And I appreciate those kind words, by the way. Okay. The bracket was just released. Are you scared? Because I'm always scared. I admit this. I've watched college basketball my whole life. I cover it. I cover high school, college, and the NBA. I will admit this. I have never won a March Madness bracket challenge. I've never won. I feel like I know what I'm talking about, and then the games start. How about you as a guy that covers college basketball?
When the team that I cover is in the tournament, has been every year except for this year, I don't do a bracket because, I'm biased. And so this year I might actually do a bracket for the first time in a long time because Virginia, the school that I cover on a regular basis, is not in the tournament this year. I hope it's a one-year blip, but I think, Mark, probably some of what it is people who like us have developed a lot of have a lot of knowledge of the game and cover it regularly. We're almost it's almost paralysis by analysis. We know so much that we outthink ourselves, and that's dangerous in a bracket situation too, where one miss throws your whole bracket off.
The SEC got a record 14 teams. Now I know, look, there's 30 teams in the conference. That's what it feels like now. But like 14, even Oklahoma, who I saw in person, is not a good team. 14. You cover the ACC. What are your thoughts? We'll start there then.
Well, I mean, the SEC won the ACC SEC Challenge. I think the ACC won one of those games back. That's in November and December, but I mean, that was indicative of how, at least this year, the SEC was that powerful. And I don't know about 14 out of, is it 18 in the
I can't
SEC
keep
now?
up. I think it's 16. I can't keep up after a while.
It's whatever it is, right? So I don't know that 14 deserved bids, but because a lot of that is the metrics get boosted because they're all playing each other all the time from January 1st on. They're playing each other all the time. But I mean, at the top, there's really good basketball, and at the top is, I mean, they could have had 4 number 1 seeds if they hadn't all been beating each other up.
Yes.
I got to see a lot of that this year because Virginia played Florida early in the season. The Auburn Duke game, even though Duke won that game, it was at Duke. And Virginia also lost to Tennessee. I mean, so there's good teams at the top of that conference, and if the what I saw at the top of the SEC is any indication of the strength of the middle and the bottom part of the league, yeah, that's a pretty good league this year.
Georgia, I saw they're going to take on. It is see, now I'm on camera. I can't look down at my phone as I usually do for the radio. No, you look at Georgia, 21 season. Mike White's been there for a couple of years. I saw the stat. They've not won a tournament game in like 20 years or so. And they're going to take on that team, I think, from Spokane, Washington.
They are.
Yeah. So what have they gone? Gonzaga's gone to what, 26 in a row to the tournament? Those are those examples there of like, I think I know what to pick, but then I don't know what to pick. Do you see a lot of those types of games where there's a team that's won 26 games, there's another team that won 20? Is it one of these where a lot of these games are toss-ups?
I think a lot are, because I'm going to quibble, with the tournament selection committee in terms of some of its seedings. And I'm not going to do this for every one of the 68 teams, but I'm just looking at the teams both in the ACC and then some of our local teams here in Virginia, and just looking at the seedings. For example, Louisville is in an 8-9 game. They're opposite Auburn in the Auburn's region there. Louisville is seeded 8th. Louisville's metric rankings suggest they should have been seeded 5th. So who's that unfair to? Is that unfair to Louisville, or is it unfair to Auburn if they've got to play them in the second round? I think it's unfair to Auburn that they might have to play a team that should be a Sweet 16 opponent for them in the second round. So, VCU, another school that I cover here, but in my backyard, also because the VCU head coach Ryan Odom is rumored to be the top candidate for the Open Virginia job. VCU is an 11 seed. Their metrics suggest they should have been an 8 or a 9 seed. So again, who's that unfair to, them, or in the case of BYU, the number 6 seed opposite VCU in that 6-11 game? Is it unfair to BYU that they've got to play a team that's probably underseeded? So there's going to be a lot of that going on. And if you're out there, okay, if you're picking your brackets, if you're betting, I suggest go do the kind of things that I do, which is go to all those metrics. There's like 8 or 9 really good metrics out there, and figure out where the NCAA got it wrong. And that's where you might find your upsets.
Okay, the team I cover, the Florida Gators, 30 wins. 30 wins, and their first SEC tournament championship since 2014. And the last time they were a number 1 seed was 2014. That was the Final Four team. Patrick Young, Chioza, love that team. I really do. I like this team, and I said this after I saw him in person, and we're here with Chris Graham. I still think I'm doing the radio. I got to reset, even though they can see your name. So we're here with Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. I like the Gators, and you look at this run they've gone on, beating Auburn, beating Bama, beating Missouri, beating Tennessee multiple times. They have the best resume, I think, of anyone. I know you're going to get to Duke in a second, but I think Florida, I'm going to be a homer. They have an amazing resume, and they deserve to be a number 1 seed. But at the same time, it's what you just said. There's a part of me, okay, that's great and all, but all right, that's regular season. None of that matters now. You got to go win 6 games. Is that how you look at it now that we're here for the actual tournament?
And I'm looking at so Duke won its last 2 games in Charlotte without Cooper Flagg.
Yes.
And no one would have thought they would still be a 1 seed if they had lost either of those 2 games, because you could have written it off to say, oh, okay, well, they lost to Carolina in the semis or to Louisville in the final because their best player, the ACC Player of the Year, was out of the lineup. I'm starting to think maybe Cooper Flagg shouldn't have been the ACC Player of the Year. How can you be the MVP when your team still goes out? They led Carolina by 24 in the second half. Yes, Carolina rallied and made it a close game at the end. They dominated Louisville in the championship game last night. This Duke team, they learned something about themselves, which is if Cooper Flagg gets in foul trouble, they can still go out and win a game because they won 2 whole games against 2 tournament teams without him. I think that should scare the rest of the field. Yeah, Florida's great. I mean, I love Walter Clayton. Virginia played Florida back-to-back years. We played each other back in 2023 in an early season game in Charlotte, one of those non-conference neutral site games, and then of course this season in the ACC SEC Challenge. I liked Walter Clayton last year. He's a lot better this year. I like their big guys. They scored 87 points this season in the win over Virginia. It was played at Virginia's glacially slow pace, like a 60 or 61 possession game. They scored 87 points in 60 or 61 possessions against Virginia. That team can score points. That's going to make them dangerous in the NCAA tournament.
All right. I will give you some props for Duke, one of the teams you cover in the ACC. When I watched that title game Saturday night where they took on Louisville, and I'm with you, the Cardinals, they're great. The Cardinals, I got to say that right. Cardinals, Stanford, they're the Cardinals. ESPN did a great job with the camera, where usually when you watch basketball on TV, it's kind of looking down, right? But ESPN, again, amazing, kind of like this mid-level camera, kind of like when you're playing a video game, like FIFA or Madden, you could change the camera angle. It's like they were testing it out. So right at tip, the first 3 minutes of the game, you could see the height and the athleticism of Duke. They are big, right? And Louisville had no angles to the basket. There was I always talk about the windows that are being open. Nothing was open for Louisville. Every shot was contested, and they had problems. And I think Duke is fantastic. And you know what? I'm going to give credit to John Shire. I mean, we were just talking about Todd Golden at Florida and how great of a team they are now in year 3. You look at Shire taking over for Coach K and what he's done. And, I mean, another 30-win team. And I heard Dickie V say this. He's won over 80 games so far there at Duke. It's incredible, dude. He's not missed a beat. And I got to give him props. He's from the Chicagoland area, and he's also part of the tribe. So he gets special love from me on that, Chris. He does. Duke's fantastic. I think Duke's number 1. I think the Gators are 2. I think Houston is dangerous. There's another team went to the Big 12, and they're winning 30 wins as well. I think those are my top 3 teams. What about you, Chris?
I like those teams. I mean, when you talk about Duke, they're big. Their point guard, Sion James, is 6'6". Yeah. That's just Tyrese Proctor, shooting guard, 6'6". Concanupal is their small forward / other big shooting guard, 6'7". Flagg at 6'9". Their center that was the guy dominating the rim protection in the glass last night, Kaman Maliwak, 7'2", 250. He doesn't have big numbers, but he's going to be a lottery pick this year.
Yeah.
His backup, Patrick Gongba, is another guy who's going to be a first round pick. I mean, this is a team that is going against convention in this day and age. Now, yeah, Duke's been a one and done team. Krzyzewski adopted the one and done way back 2010, 2011 or so. Kyrie Irving was his first one and done. But in this day and age now, you're supposed to have seniors, 5th-year seniors, 6th-year seniors, and you have 24-year-old guys out there playing against the young guys. They're all young guys. I mean, there's Sion James, the point guard, is a senior. He's a transfer. But everybody else on that roster that is important in that rotation are freshmen, and they're just that good. So we'll see how that translates to let me just say this, Mark, you have covered NCAA tournaments. You've been in the arena for NCAA tournament games. Me for many years, I've been doing this. This will be the first year in a while that I haven't been to an NCAA tournament game. Especially when there's expectations for your team, the pressure of one and done is immense. I mean, just sitting there as someone who writes about a team is rooting. I mean, Virginia's my alma mater, so I'm also rooting for them. The pressure of those games is so much that you can't tell somebody how much pressure it is until you're sitting in that environment. I can't imagine what it's like to play in that environment. And so that's the one thing that these freshmen for Duke will have to learn on the fly. Even in that 116 game, there is pressure that is just incredible. You can feel it, you can taste it, and you can't approximate it until you're out there.
Okay, as a guy that covers the ACC, was this a down year for the conference, though?
The last 3 or 4 years, I mean, this year the ACC got 4 teams into the tournament. I mean, I want to say maybe last year was 5. The year before that, I think, was also 5. Yeah, the ACC. I mean, it's got issues. There, right now the issue is so many of the great coaches have gone off into the sunset. Coach K retired, Roy Williams a few years ago retired, Jim Boeheim, Tony Bennett, Jim Larinaga. You lose that level of coaching talent. Those are all either current Hall of Famers, or the ones who aren't current Hall of Famers are very soon future Hall of Famers. You can't afford to lose that kind of brain drain and then not have it impact you. So there's some obvious issues there, but and also the money issues between the SEC, Big Ten as the Big Two, and then the next tier down being the Big 12, and in basketball the Big 12, ACC, and Big East. There's a money gap, and you got to overcome that. So yeah, right now in the here and now, the ACC, the schools are still adjusting to that. But Virginia's got an open job. I hope that they make the right call. I don't know what that right call is, but I hope that whoever it is the right call. We've already seen Miami make a replacement. Jai Lucas, the Duke assistant coach, who was a great recruiter there, is their new head coach. Luke Lukers
At
Florida.
FSU?
Yeah, FSU. Yeah, a native son who has NBA assistant chops. No college experience, at least no recent college experience, but there's guys, and young guys in those cases. I think Virginia's got a couple of guys who are more experienced that they're looking at, but we'll see if see how it all works out. You got to get the right coaches in place. You got to get NIL in place, and the SEC's there. That's why the SEC's got 14 teams in the tournament this year. The ACC needs to look at what the SEC is doing, and I think a lot of those schools are in the ACC, and say, here's what we got to do. We got to step up our game.
We're at the Chris Graham Augusta Free Press. We're talking March Madness. It'll start, I know, Tuesday. Look, I'm sorry to say this. I really don't care for the first couple games in Dayton, Ohio. I'm sorry, I'm a jerk. It's going to start Thursday.
By the way, I was at the first 4 last year. Virginia was in a first 4 game last year.
See, this is why you're a gamer, Chris, because you've been to the Final Four. You've been to Dayton, Ohio for the first 4. You've been to Greensboro. So let's just say it's for the ACC tournament. You've been to Greensboro. You've been to Madison Square Garden, where it had no business being there, by the way, like none. You were in Orlando when they lost on the crazy shot at the end, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Yeah. 2 springs ago. Yep.
Yeah. This was so funny for our listeners. So, or viewers. See, I gotta make sure I say that right. So you're like, hey, I'm going to be at the Amway Center, which is now the Kia Center there for the Orlando Magic. You're like, come on, we'll hang out. Virginia's probably going to win 2 games. I'm like, yeah, all right. And the Benzos, they lose that first game. I'm sorry, man. Thursday. Then Saturday, you're like, well, I have the whole day free. So, and then we hung out and had a good time. We did. And the restaurant we ate at is now closed down. I'm sorry to tell you.
2 years ago. How does that happen? They changed the name of the arena.
It makes no sense. It's crazy to think about how time flies like that. Here's what I want to ask you. So I've had this thing all season where you were just bringing up the older guys are retiring. And I always bring up the no country for old men. Get out of the way, old man. And a guy like Todd Golden at Florida. This is a young guy, early 30s. He's hungry. He understands the transfer portal. He gets NIL. He built it up. And I go, yes, it's a young man's game. But then you got Rick Pitino showing up at St. John's. What is Bruce Pearl at Auburn? So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. How about you, Chris?
Virginia played St. John's this year too. I think we played all the good teams this year.
Yeah, you do. You're the sacrificial lamb to get people.
Maybe I should use that insight. They every one of them beat Virginia by at least 18 points this year. So it wasn't like Virginia played them well, but no, Pitino and Rick Barnes. Don't forget Rick Barnes. I mean, I'm writing about this Virginia coach search Rick Barnes in 1990, when Virginia's then legendary coach Terry Holland retired abruptly at the age of 49, Rick Barnes took the job at Virginia. He was a Providence coach. He took the job at Virginia he agreed to it verbally. And then as he's getting on the plane to come to Virginia to sign the contract and go for the press conference to say, I'm here, I'm your coach, he changed his mind. That was 35 years ago. He's still coaching. Um, Most of the people he beat out for that job are either retired or dead. And he's still out, and not just coaching, but coaching well. So, yeah, there's the young guys who are hungry, and then there's the old guys who know how to do what they need to do.
Pitino can coach. Look, some of the things off the court, I don't want to get into. But if you're just talking, can this guy coach basketball? Yes. I'm going to give Pitino his flowers. I was on another show, and I'm going to ask you this question. So I'm on this other show, and it was based on New York, and they just wanted my thoughts on St. John's, by the way, the whole time. So they were going over Mount Rushmore. And I said, all right, if you go over the names, John Wooden, I mean, the GOAT, if you want to put it that way, John Wooden, Coach K. You could go multiple people who coached at North Carolina. You know what I mean? Dean Smith, Roy Williams, all those. Jim Boeheim. I mean, Calipari's up there. And you look at what Pitino's done. I mean, they have not won a conference in 40 years. And I get NIL help. 40 years. And now he has them back. Am I missing any names there for the Mount Rushmore then?
Well, what's interesting about Pitino, okay, so you could say he's done it with NIL. Everybody else has the same access to, I mean, theoretically has the same access to do that that he does. Reading about this year's team, though, I mean, he's the guy that back in the '80s with Providence decided, here's how I'm going to take advantage of the game. There was at that point new 3-point line, and so he had his team shoot more 3-pointers on an order of magnitude more than anybody else in the '80s. He just had his guys throwing up threes because he was an early a guy with metrics saying the more threes we make, the more we're going to win these games with less talent, and he did that with Providence, took him to a Final Four, and then that set him off. He got all these other great jobs as a result. This year he's got this roster recruited through NIL. He got all these guys. And he talked about how he gets these guys and he's going through his regular drills that he does in the preseason to see what they can do. And he realizes, I don't have a 3-point shooting team. There's nobody on this team that can shoot threes the way I want them to.
Full circle.
Yeah. So he decides what we're going to do is I've got guys who can attack the paint, though. We're going to attack the paint. We're not going to shoot threes. And we're going to play relentless defense. And back when Virginia played St. John's, we were still 3-0. We had beaten Villanova, and that seemed like an impressive win. And then St. John's was a buzzsaw. I mean, it was like watching a varsity team play against the 8th grade team. The way they would just come up and take the ball away from guys. It felt like, they were just the big kids beating up on the little kids. And that's what he's done. He's, I can't win the way I want to, so I'm going to win this way this year. That's the mark of a good coach. He doesn't just coach to a system. He can adapt. He's 71 or 72 years old. He's been winning a certain way for 40 years, and he adapts this year and does that. That's the sign of a coach right there.
All right, let's end with this. Even though we've made absolutely no picks, we've done? We're TV producers. We're coming up with all the storylines for the tournament. That's what we've done over the last 30 minutes or so. I still have issues with college basketball, and I love the sport, but the transition of college basketball to the NBA, I feel like it's completely broken because I go to the NBA draft and you saw this last summer where it was like, all right, we're taking all these guys from France and then from the G League and whatever the hell is NBA Ignite or where is that played at the YMCA? Who are these people? My question for you is, okay, I'm here in Florida. I don't think there was a lot of national hype for Cooper Flag. Like there was the beginning of the season. Then I kind of felt like it fizzled. It wasn't like Wemby hype or Zion Williamson. You're there. They always say Tobacco Road. You're there, right there. Did you feel all that hype for, this guy's going to the NBA?
We did not. The Zion Williamson comparison is a great one because Zion, I think a part of that hype was that Of course, that Duke team. I was getting ready to say that Duke team was so good. This Duke team's a 1 seed, just like that team was in 2019. But Zion had the highlights, and Cooper Flag is not necessarily a highlight producer. I mean, I'm remembering a dunk in the Pitt game back in January where he dunked on a fast break through a guy, but he is just a guy. He had the game in Charlottesville where Duke won against Virginia 80-62. It was kind of a ho hum. We beat them by 18 points game. He had 17 points and 14 rebounds in that game, and it was just a coolly efficient 17 points and 14 rebounds. He didn't do anything spectacular. They just ran a lot of offense through him. He had 4 or 5 assists in that game. Could have had a couple others if not for missed shots. Um, but it's not like he did anything terribly flashy like Williamson did. You were always good for a Williamson windmill dunk, alley-oop, where he jumped from half court. I mean, something, Vince Carter like out of him. Flag is just good on he's on every single play. And so maybe that's part of it and also let's say it this way. He's a big, tall, white Duke guy who we didn't hate. So
that's a good point.
He's the first big white Duke guy that we didn't hate. So, and there are still people. I saw somebody in the crowd last night wearing, and it was a Carolina person who I guess just had their tickets and decided to go hate watch the ACC championship game after their team lost on Friday night. A person wearing "I still hate Christian Laettner" shirt. That's 30 some years ago, and they still hate Christian Laettner.
Was the person born when Christian Laettner played? I mean, okay, here's how I look at him for the draft. Okay, I was telling this to my brother before. You got to get a big three. Can you get your 3 best players on your team? So I see Cooper Flag as a 2 on a team. He's not a 1 option. He's a 2. But that's fine. I'm taking him with the first pick. I know Ron Harper's son is going to be like the 2nd pick, and I think Rutgers. I'm taking Cooper Flag at number 1, but he's going to be a second banana. Like you see the Magic logo. He could be my Franz Wagner. He's not Paolo Banchero. He's not. He could be the second banana, and I'm okay with that, Chris, if you draft him.
I'm trying to think of a comp for him, and I'm struggling right now because I'm not disagreeing with second banana. He is somebody that will just make. Now, I mean, everything we read about him when he was in the U.S. Olympic camp last summer, there was that select team that played against the Olympic team to get them ready for the Paris Olympics. And there were a lot of people talking about how he was often the best player on the floor, including with the Olympic team when he was out there. He does everything. So it's not, but the thing is, he doesn't do one thing great. He's kind of like your 5-tool baseball player,
Yes.
And so he does everything so well. He's not quite Larry Bird. He's got the outside shooting, but he doesn't have, that level of outside shooting. He doesn't have prowess at that. He can score in the post, but he's not the best guy in the post. He can pass out of either the post or from the perimeter, but he's not but he's so good at everything. He rebounds well. He plays. He should have been the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He wasn't. And there was a lot of people here in the ACC saying the only reason he didn't get ACC Defensive Player of the Year was there was a sentiment among the media members saying we can't give him every award. Well, they should have. He should have been the Player of the Year defensively. So he's that good across the board. And so maybe what it is we just haven't seen him. He's still maybe scratching the surface of what he can do. I mean, maybe we might see him at the NBA, kind of like Paolo Banchero. When we talked a few years ago, Mark, and you had me on your show to talk about Paolo Banchero, I said I don't know if I would take him that high because I saw him play. I saw him play some subpar games. And obviously he's grown into the role that a lot of other people, other than me, thought he would grow into. I think though for Cooper Flag, we have not seen his best or even close to his best yet, and we will see it when he gets to the NBA.
I just want you to know, you see this behind me? That is the UCF basketball, the 2019 team that should have beaten Duke and Zion, and the refs screwed him over. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it.
I was in the arena that night. They were playing in the same arena that UVA was playing in.
That's BJ Taylor, Taco Fall. That's their best team they've ever had. Last time they went to the tournament, which is sad. I'll never get over that game. And I've told that to Johnny Dawkins. By the way, one of the great Duke players of all time. Yeah. And don't worry, he's like, Mark, I'm with you. Okay. I can't get over it either. Don't worry. All right. All right. Can you come back on next week and we'll update our busted brackets? Can we do that?
We can do that. Yeah, because mine are guaranteed to be busted.
Yeah, and don't worry. Then we'll talk about our favorite feud in all of wrestling: Storm versus May in AEW.
And
Okay.
I'm mourning that it's over. Yeah, yeah. We
Oh,
have a
it's
lot to
never
go.
over. It's never. What's the website we could check out, buddy, for the latest on your March Madness, all your coverage coming up?
AugustaFreePress.com.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Have a great, great week, buddy.
Thanks, Mark.
It's great. Always love talking to Chris Graham. All right. That's episode 1 of the Mark Moses Show. We're out of time. I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, Alan Slaughterzinski, Brevard Sports Network's going to join us. And maybe I'm working on it. The NXT Women's Champion. Oh, we got a loaded show tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Mark Moses Show podcast. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow, cool kids.